there's something really interesting that's happening that's really gotten in my gears. It's really started to frustrate me, the lessons that Hollywood is taking from the failure of Tron Ares. And I'm really concerned that, again, they're going to take the wrong lessons from why it failed. I've started to think more and more of how this compares to Dune. I feel, and I am very confident, that Dune, the success of that film franchise, proves everyone wrong about Tron. Tron could be successful. It could be a success like Dune is, as far as the film side of things goes. It just requires the right hands and the proper care of it. Both franchises had enormous potential despite there being a niche sci-fi property that does not have this built-in mass appeal, especially for the film-going general audience. But Dune proves them wrong. I've been seeing more and more about the conversation when it comes to Tron as a franchise as a whole and what they're blaming the failure of Ares on. And it's usually these people that are higher up, these insiders, saying, of course, it's the audience's fault. It's the IP's fault. People just don't like Tron. But it's really interesting, the parallels that I've been finding between Tron and Dune. We have two different pathways. One shows how to be a success, and the other shows how to be a failure. But both of them are starting the same. You have a niche sci-fi property. It's strange. It's weird. Dune is weird and doesn't have this built-in mass appeal. People who love it find it iconic in the realm of science fiction. And same with Tron. People who have really delved into it, they really love the world and are fascinated by its concepts and characters. Obviously, there's difference between both, but end of the day, they are both loved by a small part in comparison to the large movie-going audience. So let's go back. Let's go back to the 80s. Both franchises, Dune and Tron, had flops. Their first movie flopped. In 1982, Tron was not a success. In 1984, David Lynch's Dune, not a success by any means commercially. But both did develop that dedicated fan base. They both became cult classics. They are beloved to this day. So they both started the same. That's interesting as far as on the big screen. And then Tron Legacy came out in 2010. Legacy cost $170 million and made $400 million at the box office. When adjusted for inflation, would have been roughly $600 million today. So Dune Part One came out 10 years later, 2021. And there were a lot of challenges leading up to its production too. And a lot of people were concerned with whether this could work. They were calling it unfilmable. The franchise, Dune, the story, impossible to film. That this was a huge high stakes risk that Warner Brothers was taking on, and Denis Villeneuve. At the time, only one film had been greenlit. So there was also that added anxiety of whether or not the film would do well if we would get Part Two. At that time, in 2021, there was only one film, Part One. And what did it make? Tron Legacy made $400 million at the box office. Dune Part One made the same amount. It cost $165 million to produce and made just over $400 million. So actually, Tron Legacy did better when you think about it, because it came out 10 years prior to Dune Part One. So yeah, when adjusted for inflation, yeah, it did a little bit better than Dune Part One did. Now, granted, Dune Part One had its own specific challenges. It had that staggered release strategy. It was released overseas, internationally, just in theaters first. Then it had the day-and-date release to streaming for its worldwide premiere. But at the end of the day, it made the same amount. So when people began to say that Tron Legacy was a flop, it was modest, it may be underwhelming when you're just looking at it from a numbers perspective. When you're also looking at it from the big picture, these are stories that are just not in the mainstream at all. And also coming off the back of the previous film, decades before that flopped, these new films that came out actually did really great in comparison to those first films that bombed in the 80s. When I heard people saying that about Tron Legacy, well, then Dune Part One flopped. What would have happened if Warner Brothers didn't greenlight Part Two and just decided to take the Disney approach and let it die? This is the turning point. This was the fork in the road for both of these franchises, for Tron Legacy and Dune Part One. So unlike Disney, Warner Brothers saw the potential. They looked at those numbers that were basically the same as Tron Legacy was and saw potential. They knew that if they continued it, it could only grow. So what'd they do? They didn't greenlight the film until Dune Part One came out. Then they greenlit Part Two. So they did want to see the numbers, and when they saw the numbers, okay, there's potential. We're going to go ahead. We're going to proceed. And they greenlit Part Two. Tron Legacy and Dune Part One both had compelling stories. They elevated the potential of what their prospective franchises could be. And they embraced that. They both had visionary directors at the helm. You had Joseph Kosinski and you have Denis Villeneuve. Both directors loved the world they were telling stories in. And you can tell that on screen. They invested in enriching as they expanded these universes. And they wanted to make it accessible to new audiences, to new fans. And they both were successful at that. Tron Legacy far increased the fan base of Tron. A lot of people to this day maybe haven't even seen the original film, but they love Tron Legacy. So we're at this crossroads too. Denis Villeneuve is ready to go for Part Two. Obviously, he just didn't have the green light yet. He had planned for 2 movies. That was his intent from the beginning. So that was the plan. And Warner Brothers said, okay, we'll do that, but we'll see how the movie does when it comes out, and then we'll see. Joseph Kosinski had plans for 2 films. All the actors had signed on for 2 films. They were both ready to go. Joseph Kosinski was ready to go for Tron Ascension. It's just amazing to me how one studio, one decision can make the difference if an IP is going to succeed or fail. Warner Brothers saw the potential, whereas Disney pulled the plug right as production was ready to film. That's what changed everything for this IP. Whereas Warner Brothers gave him the green light. Okay, maybe like a couple weeks after the film debuted, Part One. All right, let's go. Everything was set in place, all the actors ready to go, hit the ground running. With Part Two, they took advantage of the momentum of this new film and the IP and ran with it. They didn't just let it sit and waste away on the shelf. They didn't just let the script languish, collecting dust for years. And what was the result? Their greenlighting Dune Part 2 led to over $700 million in the box office and expanded even more so the love for this film franchise. People loved the scale. They loved Austin Butler. They loved those scenes. And what was the result for Tron? They waited 15 years and they let Jared Leto come in. I mean, it just showed how little they cared about it. They're just like, yeah, Jared Leto, just do whatever you want. He was a producer on the film and now was the central character. And it's struggling to even match half of Tron Legacy's box office. So if Disney came to the conclusion that Tron Legacy just didn't perform well enough for them to continue doing it, then I don't know what they thought this film would do. They thought it was a wise choice to reboot it again. You already had a successful soft reboot of the franchise, and you're going to do it again? It's just astounding to me. And again, the difference is there when it comes to casting and who's involved. Comparing it to Dune. Dune has an amazing cast. With the exception of like a couple casting choices, for large part, that cast is amazing and their performances are outstanding in Dune Parts 1 and 2. Your casting choices do matter. They're not the only thing that matters. If you're banking on just your stars getting butts in seats, no, that's not it. But it does help. You need that story, your directors that know what they're doing, that can craft a film that audiences have a reasonable expectation that they're going to be entertained by. You can't put all your eggs in the casting basket, but it does help. And the casting for Tron Ares, come on. Mutilate the script into a solo vehicle for Jared Leto, one of the more controversial figures, just in his personal life, but also just to the general audience. It's infamous, his turn as Joker in Suicide Squad and Morbius. And the fact that they think that that wasn't an issue is insane to me. They are just either willfully blinded to pop culture and the online conversation and audiences and just tapping into that, or they wanted this IP to die. At every turn, when Disney had the opportunity to water the seedling that is Tron, they chose to ignore it. They chose to let it wither and die. Whereas Warner Brothers and Legendary have taken the opposite approach at every turn and let it grow. An IP that was niche, they decided to cultivate into a successful movie franchise where we're getting a 3rd film with the potential for more. The fact of the matter is that these 2 IPs were at the same crossroads numerous times, and Dune proves everyone wrong. Tron could be good. It could be successful commercially and critically. Disney just doesn't want to do that. They want to blame fans. They want to blame the Tron IP itself for their box office woes. Basically everyone else but themselves. But there is no spinning this disaster. The fault is entirely at the feet of Disney. This is what insiders are saying. One astute talent rep on why it was game over for Tron Ares at this October's box office said, quote, "There was no specific vision, to be honest. The idea that Disney would spend $250 million on a Jared Leto film that is a franchise that hasn't worked in 4 decades is insane." I agree, there was no vision. They had no idea what to do with Tron. But also, the franchise can work. That's what's so frustrating. He said it hasn't worked in 4 decades. Well, that's because they didn't want it to work. They didn't make it work. Originally, you had the cult fan base of Tron. You had the visionary director. You had the appeal of this epic soundtrack, these amazing visuals, connecting it to the original Tron. They made a great film in Tron Legacy that worked as a soft reboot. It requires TLC and cultivation. You can't just let it languish. They had the potential. They could have tapped into it, but at every turn they decided not to. You need a vision. You need a director who knows what he's doing. You need someone who cares. If Tron never worked, then Dune Part One didn't work because they were in the same boat, commercially and when it comes to the general audience. Both niche and both had just $400 million to their name in the box office. And they could have either cut the vine off there and let it wither and die, or water it and see what happens. Warner Brothers and Legendary saw the potential, where the previous film, decades before, had bombed. This Monday morning quarterbacking, they're just quick to label the entire universe doesn't work. They think the IP itself is to blame, and it's not. At the end of the day, Dune proves everyone wrong. It proves if you handle things right, these niche sci-fi IPs with little to no general audience appeal, there's potential for a successful movie franchise if you make the right decisions.